So today is the day we do my pick'ems for the playoffs. Should be very exciting. 8 very good teams to talk about and their games. Now, the pick'ems for me didn't go too well in the group stages. I only got 10 points, which is very, very bad. I did get 3 of the 4 teams correctly coming out. You know, I got EG, DRX, NRG, went for T1 over EDG, but okay. But I just got them somewhat in the wrong order, and so it kind of all went bad. So we need to make up for it in the playoff pick'ems here today. So let's just dive straight in, and we'll start with our first game, PaperX versus DRX. Now, one quick note, the games are actually being played in opposite order of this. So Loud EG is actually the first game, and then EDG Team Liquid is the second, and then, we're going up. I don't know why that's happened, but it has. But either way, that gives something more time to potentially make it for PaperX, which is a good thing. But unfortunately, I think at this point, it probably looks likely that something will not be playing, at least for this first game, but maybe the whole tournament as well, which would be a shame. But for this game, if something doesn't play, I just think that that's too big of a loss, right? In terms of maybe the comps that they'll play, maybe PaperX will have to, play different comps. Obviously, something is a top 10 player in the world, probably to most people, so that's obviously a massive, massive loss as well. And so even though DRX, who did look, I think, better in their last game, I think, they're going to stick with Zest at this point. It's just going to be that roster. And I think when they play Zest, they actually have a home map in Fracture. I think that that's something that they were missing when they were playing Foxy 9, is that maybe they were slightly better on some maps, but they didn't have a home map. They didn't have a map where it's like, yeah, you can rely on DRX to be very good on this map. And when they do play with Zest, Fracture is a map for them where you can reliably say, especially on their attack side, this is going to be hard to stop. And we saw that against Foot. And so I think with Zest against the sober PaperX, I will go for DRX. Now, our next game is one that people have wanted to see for a very, very long time, which is Fnatic versus NRG, or the old Optic core, of course, which has never happened up until this point, which is crazy considering how many times Loud and NRG or Optic have played. That's kind of a weird thing to have never happened, but here we are. And for me, this is one where I could definitely see this being close and, hard fought, of course. But I do think that Fnatic will have a pretty big advantage. I am definitely a believer in that Fnatic have more things cooked up that they did not show even in the grand final of EMEA. You cannot convince me that Fnatic only have one pistol round on some of these maps, because that's pretty much all they showed on some of these maps. And so I believe that they have to have more stuff in there. And NRG, unlike Fnatic, have had to show quite a lot. It's classic NRG, playing a lot of maps, playing a lot of close series. Nothing is easy for them, it seems. And so I do think that Fnatic will have that advantage in this game. Fnatic will have been able to watch NRG. They'll be able to know what NRG are bringing, whereas NRG will probably not know so much of what Fnatic are bringing. Even if Fnatic bring the same comps, I still think they'll have a lot of different stuff ready for NRG. And for teams that, who do play the game at a very high level, big brain, all that kind of stuff, that I think is a pretty significant advantage. And so I am going to pick Fnatic because of that, because I do think that that advantage, of having stuff that NRG have never seen will bear out. But I still think that this game will be pretty close. Now we come to Team Liquid versus EDG. And I think for the EDG believers, you'll be looking at this and going, okay, Team Liquid, we dodged Fnatic and Loud, EDG, confidence brimming. They could be Team Liquid, right? And I think that, yeah, that actually could happen. But I don't want to undersell Team Liquid in this. I think that Team Liquid are still a very good team who, again, like, all these teams that have made the playoffs, they've had this extra time. They can watch the VODs of the other teams. They've had the time to maybe prepare some new stuff on different maps that no one has ever seen before. And so, they get that advantage. And I do think that Team Liquid, are a pretty heavy firepower team themselves. It's not like they're going to get, drastically out-aimed. In fact, the old Team Liquid squad was known for being, a heavy aim team pretty much. And with Safe and Nats, it's not like they can't aim either. So I do think that Team Liquid will have enough in terms of their game plans and understanding to be able to best EDG, and they'll have enough firepower as well to just be able to cope and kind of keep up with EDG in that kind of sense. And then finally, we have Loud versus EG. Now, for this game, obviously, we saw this game happen in Americas before, where Loud, even against the kind of, thriving EG, were able to take care of them. Now, EG did win a map, Ascent as well, in that series. So I'll be interested to see how the map veto plays out in this one. EG have started banning Bind, which was the third map where Loud kind of destroyed EG. So I highly doubt we'll see Bind in this one, which, might help EG out a bit. But these two, are starting to build a bit of history together. We also have the 13-0, of course, between these two earlier on in the season. So there is already kind of a bit of history here. And here's like another chapter in these two teams' story. But I do think that Loud will have enough in this game. I do think, it's Loud. And again, Loud will be able to prepare for those VODs. Maybe Loud will have cooked something up a bit different as well for EG that maybe they've never seen before. And so I do think that that will give Loud the advantage in this game. But again, wouldn't be surprised if this one was close. Definitely 2-1, I think, is kind of on the cards for this game. So now let's take a look at our upper semifinals before we go to the elimination games. And we'll start with Fnatic versus DRX, where I'm just going to be honest, this one to me doesn't seem too difficult to predict if this game did come to pass, because I think that Fnatic would just be on a different level to DRX. Maybe, again, like on a map like Fracture, DRX could challenge, but I think on a lot of the other maps right now, Fnatic would be favored overall. I just think that they would be a kind of class above of DRX, and if something did play for PaperX, I would have picked them instead, which is unfortunate, because something PaperX versus Fnatic, that would be an absolute gigabanger. But let's just move on to Team Liquid versus Loud, and I kind of get the same feeling, to be honest, where I'm just, can I envision Team Liquid beating Loud? I can. There is like a realm of possibility there. I do think that, again, Team Liquid, particularly if Split gets in the map pool, would be fairly heavily favored on that map. But I think across the entirety of the map pool, I think that Loud, especially against some of these EMEA teams, like a Team Liquid, where Harbor Viper isn't seen that much, and now you're playing the kind of masters of Harbor Viper maybe on some of these maps, that it could cause them some problems. I'm thinking of a map like Haven. If Haven gets in the map pool and Team Liquid are trying to deal with something that they've probably literally never seen before in the Harbor Viper on that map, because in EMEA, you're not going to find teams playing it on that map. So, yeah, I just picture maps like that where I'm just like, I'm not sure if Team Liquid can beat them. Ascent would be a gigabanger between these two teams, and maybe very close, but I trust Loud that, they've been here before and they'd be able to win in this situation. Then we come to our elimination games. If it did play out like this, again, I would really hope that something would be there for this game, PaperX NRG, because, again, that would be a gigabanger. If something is not there, they don't have a chance. Like, I'm just going to be honest. Against NRG, they just wouldn't have a chance, and it would be such a shame that they would be kind of robbed of this opportunity. If something is there, then we get a very interesting game. Let's put it that way. But to me, like, if something is like a 50-50 in this game, that means 50% of the time PaperX have no chance, and 50% of the time, it's kind of a coin flip game. I kind of have to pick NRG if I just go off the fact that something might not be there, because it's just more likely that NRG would win then. And then we come to EDG versus EG, which would be like two rising teams, right, coming up, and the kind of surprise teams of this whole event coming and playing each other for elimination. But here's where my EDG run starts, because here's what EDG are going to do. They're going to mirror somewhat what Zeta Division did back in Masters Reykjavik. That is what I am predicting is going to happen, because Zeta Division also lost in the upper bracket of the playoffs to an EMEA team. It was G2 in that instance, but then started to go on a lower bracket run. And this is where it starts for me for Edward Gaming, where they will manage to best Evil Geniuses here. I don't think they would be favored in this game. I think that EG would definitely have a chance. But this is where just, they turn into, they get the anime, like, buff. Kankang starts going wild. And EDG managed to best EG. And we get this. And then for lower round 2, we would get Team Liquid versus NRG. And DRX versus EDG. Now, for Team Liquid versus NRG, again, this would be a very close, interesting series, I think. But there's something when you have that optic core, that kind of, you just feel like they're just going to win these crucial games. I've seen it happen so many times last year, right? It just always seemed to happen that, like, this is the kind of game that they would just win. You know, it just always happens. I can remember that game they had against DRX that was super close. But it's always like, you just, in the back of your mind, you kind of know they're going to win. And I just have that feeling that that's going to happen. For DRX EDG, though, I think this is where EDG go, no. Here we go. This is us. This is our time. We're playing a weakened opponent in the lower round 2. EDG continue their run. They get to the lower round 3 and end up in the top 4 of this tournament. Now, we'd end up with an upper final of Fnatic Loud. And obviously, this would be a rematch of the lock-in final. And this is where I mean, I really did struggle with this game in terms of, you know, who do I want to pick for this game? Because it's Fnatic Loud, and they're both really good. And I'm still kind of struggling with it even now. But I'm gonna go Fnatic. But I don't know. Flip a coin. Flip a coin. I could easily go Loud. I think this would be super close, of course. But I'm gonna go Fnatic in the best of 3. But in the lower round, we get EDG versus NRG. But this, unfortunately, is where EDG's Cinderella story does come to an end. Because similarly to Zeta Division, they get knocked out by the Optic Core at this point in time. But they do finish 4th in this tournament, which would still be a major achievement for EDG. And, you know, this will be remembered as one of their runs as they beat EG and they beat DRX through the lower bracket, and this will be a super close game. But again, NRG just have that, like, you know, that thing. And plus, you have to have an El Clasico in every single international event, so this is how I've manufactured that, by getting them into the lower final here. That's partly the reason I picked Fnatic, because I was like, well, this has to happen at some point, right? And so then we'd have Loud NRG, and obviously El Clasico of Valorant in the lower final. And God knows what would happen. Of course, it's has to be very close, right? Like, that's just... And this would be a best of 5, don't forget, as well. So it has to be very close. But I'm going to trust Loud here. I'm going to trust Loud to get a rematch. A rematch of Fnatic Loud here in the grand final. And you know what I realized? I realized that I've never picked Loud for any of these events. And I don't really know why. Because obviously ever since Reykjavik, they've shown they're a very good team. And so, you know what? I finally decided I'm picking Loud to win. I'm picking Loud to win. And I'm sorry to all the Brazilians out there, because last year I picked Fnatic 3 times. I picked PaperX for Copenhagen, and now I'm picking Loud to win Tokyo. So you have literally no chance. In fact, Loud are going out straight away because of this. Almost guaranteed. So I'm very sorry to all the Brazilians out there. But that is my pick'em. It looks more plausible than most of my pick'ems, I think. And also EDG got a nice run to 4th. So, yeah, that's what I'm going with. And let me know what you think of this pick'em in the comments down below. Don't forget to join the group as well. I'm just going to submit mine. But I do have a group here that you can join using this code, ADA847F7. If you want to join the group, currently top of my group is Halal Pug. So well done, Halal Pug. And yeah, let's see if I can get above 10 points in this whole pick'em.